Thanks for tuning in to Medical Imaging Matters, the official podcast of AHRA. I'm your host, Jason Newmark, AHRA's Executive Director, and I couldn't be more excited to have you listen in once again. In this month's episode, we're spotlighting one of AHRA's most impactful and enduring programs, the AHRA Putting Patients First grant program, generously sponsored by Canon Medical. So through an engaging roundtable discussion, you'll hear about the program's nearly 20-year history and mission, you'll gain insights into the grant application and review process, and you'll learn why Canon Medical continues to support this important initiative year after year. We'll also hear firsthand accounts from two recent grant recipients who share how they use their funding to enhance patient care and safety within their own medical imaging departments. Finally, these recipients will offer practical advice and lessons learned for AHRA members considering applying for their own grant in the future. So my guests today are Andrew Cools-Gilchrist, USA Director KOL Management at Canon Medical Systems, Andrew Ruiz, the Director of Imaging Services at the Children's Hospital of Orange County, California, and the current chair of AHRA's Member Recognition Committee, Sara Riskey, Director of Radiology at Unity Medical Center in North Dakota, and a 2025 Putting Patients First grant recipient, and Lindsay Arrington, the Imaging Manager at Emory Healthcare in Georgia, and another 2025 Putting Patients First grant recipient. All right, listeners, we have a full house here on Medical Imaging Matters. Probably the most folks in one episode we've had since we restarted this about 2 years ago. So very excited. And it's a great topic and a great group of members and partners. So we're going to dive right in here and talk about our relationship with one of our corporate partners, Canon, as well as a program that's near and dear to my heart, as well as to many members, our Putting Patients First grant. So first off, though, let me try to introduce you to the gaggle of folks that are here. So we're going to go around the horn. Andrew Ruiz, you want to jump in first, representing the great state of California?
Absolutely. Representing Southern California, Orange County. My name is Andrew Ruiz. I'm the Director of Imaging Services at Children's Hospital of Orange County, but I'm also the committee chair for the Member Recognition Committee, which has played a pretty vital role in the selection process of this amazing program that is in collaboration with Canon and the AHRA. I've been a valued member of the AHRA since, I believe, 2014. So just amazing things happening right now within the organization, and so happy to be a part of it.
I love it. All right. So you're 10 years plus as an active member. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And we appreciate you in that role. We know it's a busy role, but you guys do some great things, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more as we progress. So another Andrew. So Andrew Cools-Gilchrist, we'll go with AKG, also representing California. Want to give a little overview?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Jason. Really a pleasure to be here. Andrew Cools-Gilchrist. Apologize to the listeners for the Andrew duplication, but I am the Director of Key Opinion Leader Management at Canon Medical, and I am also Southern California, where our headquarters is located. I am, as you'll hear later, this is one of the highlights of the things that I get to do in my role, is working with key luminaries, thought leaders, and most importantly, these types of engagements to find ways that we can work with collaborative partners to find ways to meaningfully improve patient care.
Yeah, and Andrew, I feel like you've been around with the AHRA for a while, right? I feel like at least 5, maybe even 10. It's been a long.
I've known about it forever. Obviously, the partnership's been very, very strong for many years, but really becoming immersed in about the last 5 years. And it's been tremendous working with you, Jason, Mario, and the entire AHRA team. Really a pleasure to go to the annual meeting and also, connect at RSNA and other opportunities. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you're here. And obviously, we're going to talk a lot about the program and our relationship, but it's fantastic. All right, then we have two of our members. Why don't we start with Lindsay? We going to go first?
I'll go first. So I'm on the other end of the state. So I'm down in Georgia. I've been an X-ray tech since 2006. Imaging manager since 2022 when I started, my AHRA membership. And I'm with Emory Healthcare. So Emory just recently took over my home base of Houston Healthcare. I applied for the grant under Houston, and then Emory came in last June. So that's my story.
All right. It's in 2022. So you came in right after the pandemic and just dove right in.
Dove right in.
I love it. All right. And then Sara, why don't you dive in? I know you're very famous. I've seen you out on YouTube talking about the program. So excited to hear from you a little bit more detail, but want to give a little background?
Sure. I'm Sara Riskey, the Director of Radiology at Unity Medical Center. It's a 14-bed critical care access hospital in North Dakota. We're really rural. We serve about 11,000 people across the state, Northwest, Northeast, and Southern Manitoba. I'm a registered radiologic technologist and a registered medical sonographer. I hold a bachelor's of science and business administration with a focus of healthcare management. And in May of 2025, I earned my CRA credential. I've been a member of the AHRA, I believe, since 2022, and it's been great.
I love it. Well, I'm loving to hear that you guys both are relatively new members, so it just shows what you can accomplish very quickly. I loved your little plug for the CRA. Thank you for that. I'll have to send you a little extra pin to go along with your other pin. And that's fantastic. I also was going to notice it's interesting, just in terms of the two of you and then other winners of this grant this year, that I hope people realize that it's all different sizes and all different types of organizations. So to hear someone who's out in more of a rural area, a different kind of environment, and then we have Emory, which is down in Atlanta, so you're more of a city and suburban type of place. It's kind of nice that we're touching on all the different elements of healthcare providers around the country, which I love.
Yeah, I think, Jason, if I might add with that, regarding the member recognition committee and the selection process that we have amongst the 5 committee members, that was something that we pointed out early on, was the variability and the variety in the applicants that are submitting these applications, and how amazing it is to see the engagement across the U.S., various leaders in the imaging world, and how they're all trying to kind of put their thumbprint on, enhancing some level of care in some way, shape, or form. So I definitely want to reinforce that.
It's perfect, because I actually was going to tee you up next. Do you want to dive in a little bit, just kind of expand upon that, just walk through sort of what the program is? Maybe we should have started with that so people understand what our Putting Patients First program is all about, and then maybe walk through how you, as the member recognition committee, go about evaluating people, because you already mentioned that.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to start. I think the big thing with us in the MRC and what we're looking for is just the level of understanding initially for members across the U.S. to understand that the Putting Patients First program, it reinforces something fundamental in the work that we actually do in radiology, and understanding that while our world is very highly technical and it's driven by advanced technology and whatnot, within that technology, it ultimately represents a patient, right? That's what we're doing. We're advocating for patients, and we're figuring out ways that we can enhance the level of care that we provide on a daily basis. So I think the way that Canon has collaborated with the AHRA to promote this specific program, it really helps to encourage imaging leaders and teams and organizations to really just take a step back and basically ask a very important question, right? How do we intentionally design experiences that truly put patients at the center of what we do, right? So from the MRC standpoint, it's powerful because it really does highlight the passion and the creativity and ultimately the leadership, right? The Association of Medical Imaging Management, and how we focus on leadership, but it really does, putting patients first. It highlights the leadership happening across our profession.
Perfect. So AKG on the Canon side, do you want to kind of add a little bit to that? Just maybe a little bit more overview of kind of how you guys saw the program and why it's meaningful for you as a partner with ours.
Yeah, absolutely. So Canon Medical, again, as I mentioned, it's just really been tremendously committed to this Putting Patients First program. We've been doing this for, my gosh, over 15 years now. Again, while I'm relatively new to it, in the last 5 or 6 years, it's truly one of the partnerships that Canon, in the Canon family is most proud of. So it's through this longstanding collaboration with AHRA, we've supported, if you can believe this, over 80 grants. And these grants are focused on dedicating improvement patient care, safety, best practices across imaging modalities. It's a delight to be with 2 of the recipients here today, Lindsay and Sara. But most recently, we reinforced a commitment to this program with a $250,000 pledge to the AHRA Living Legacy campaign. That's reflective of a 5-year investment that runs through 2028. So there's a lot more opportunity for those listening that are interested to certainly, apply. You'll hear more details on that later. But that was in celebration of the 50th anniversary of AHRA. But ultimately, this support is directly fueling programs like Putting Patient First, which is awarding 5 grants up to $10,000 each every year to fund innovative projects that are designed and led by imaging professionals on the front lines. So obviously, within Canon, we're making the imaging equipment. So anything we can do to help be immediately involved and immersed in patient care is certainly top of our list. And then for me, I think it's worth noting what makes this really special is that the grants don't just spark kind of local improvements and innovations. ultimately the recipients are sharing what they've learned, right? They're publishing their work and disseminating best practice, which is helping raise the entire imaging community. So it has this kind of extension effect, and that aligns perfectly with the Canon Medical Made for Life philosophy, which is about putting the patient at the center of every decision we make.
I love that. I mean, there's so many gems you brought up there, just about the fact that as a technology company, it's not just the technology, it's about the relationships. It's about helping people, in their leadership journey. I love that you said the patient's at the center. Andrew, you explained the same thing about how important it is for that. Because if we can get day to day, it's hard, right? You can get caught up into sort of shuffling people through, and suddenly they become numbers, and you sort of forget they're actually people and families and, your own teams that are going through something every single day. And I just love that we have this opportunity to provide funding to some of our members out there as well. They might not otherwise get, right? It could be something, we're going to hear a lot about some of the things that you guys did. It's not, it has to be the multi-million-dollar solution to make a really big impact. Andrew, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to add, Jason, to your point. I think it's amazing. And we look at this obviously in the weeds through the MRC, but I love how the AHRA and Canon have collaborated to provide various categories that these grants will fall under, right? So the putting patients first as a prime example, you've got a pediatric category for this grant. You have a radiation safety category for this grant, so on and so forth. It really touches on all the various areas underneath the umbrella of radiology for people to actually apply to. And it really correlates, and it kind of allows various organizations across the U.S. to be able to kind of put some area of emphasis on some of these specific places within our profession.
Totally agree. All right, so let's start. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Andrew.
I was say, just to reinforce what you said, Jason, like obviously, imaging is important because it touches nearly every patient's healthcare journey, whether it is a child getting the first MRI or it's, an adult undergoing follow-up CT scans. So the way we design these experiences together is really what matters. And it's through these collaborations where we're working together with the same common goal that we really advance together. And, from my view, like this is not just like a noble social responsibility aspect, but ultimately it's a strategic investment in safer imaging, providing better patient experience, and ultimately developing a stronger national standard of care.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think the best part is where we get to next, if we get to hear from two folks who actually went out and did something. Lindsay, you want to start? Well, I guess we'll go down to you first, and maybe just share with listeners and all of us sort of being new to AHRA, like you said, in 2022. I'm so curious how you heard about the program. What was it about the program that got you sort of interested and excited? And then the process you went through to apply, and then ultimately we'll get into sort of how it's gone and the impact it's had and that. So sort of building up your story.
So, I became an AHRA member in 2022, and I check my AHRA home base like I would my email. Every morning I pull it up, see what's new, see what's going on. I don't know why, but I've moved really fast through my management career. I keep finding new things to do. My brain never stops. So when I came onto the site one day, I saw putting patients first. And this was before we were acquired by Emory. So we had not got the big name yet. We were just little Houston Healthcare. So down in Warner Robins, so it is kind of a rural community feel. It was an opportunity to take that, I had an idea that could improve safety, and going with this grant could help bring that idea to life. Just because we're rural and, we're not just, we align our goals the same with larger academic hospitals. We just don't always have those resources to implement those programs. And we needed an MR safety program along with, a couple of safety initiatives. And it just gave us the ability to move from this is something that we should do to something that we actually can do.
Love that. All right. So how did it work through for you then? So then you went through the application process, right? Fill out your story. I don't know how it works exactly. Maybe Andrew can weigh in too. Do they interview you, Andrew? Do you interview with some of these folks, or is it more reading through the application and seeing if it checks certain boxes? How's that process work?
Yeah, so I think it's a good segue to give, kind of an overview of how we look at things through the MRC and for this, specifically for this grant. But before we do that, I kind of wanted to give a shameless plug, Jason, to the MRC committee, because I wouldn't be a good chair if I didn't do that. But, Mark, Stefan, Michelle Nocera, Christine Harris, and Jason Scott, along with myself, and then obviously Jess helping to kind of coordinate things. it really does take a significant amount of work and understanding and collaboration for us to be able to get together and take a look at these applications and really kind of focus on a couple of different key factors that we kind of play into the discussion. The first being, the impact of the project, right? Does this initiative, what is this initiative? What kind of impact does this initiative have on improving, the patient experience or our profession and kind of moving the needle, right, within our profession? We obviously look at any kind of innovation. So how are these teams approaching challenges in newer, creative ways? We look at scalability, believe it or not. I mean, we want to make sure that these projects are going to have a lasting impact, not just on their organization, but potentially being able to kind of spread it across the U.S. As we have such a very collaborative organization at the AHRA, and we have thousands of members that are constantly communicating with one another, whether it be on the forum or directly, or through our mentorship program, so on and so forth. So we look for some level of scalability, to these projects that some of these organizations have going on, and whether or not, it can be done anywhere, right? And then the final thing is, feasibility and just understanding the project itself and making sure that it's a project that can be, ultimately completed. So we do that in, kind of various forums, but mostly we do it via discussion. So we'll take a look at all the applications as they come in, and we'll evaluate applications kind of on a solo basis, committee member to committee member, and then we'll bring it for discussion collaboratively through our monthly MRC meetings. And we'll shed light on certain applications that we think are really going to be needle movers, and have any discussion, get any questions answered, so on and so forth. But it's really done kind of collectively at the MRC level. Yeah. And from there, it'll work itself out.
Love it. All right. So it's extensive. And I want people to understand that. Like, it's not just, hey, you apply and you get it in. They go through a rigorous sort of checklist, multiple personalities, multiple aspects. I like what you mentioned. Does it check off the boxes? I love the sustainability. I love, does it get back to the absolute ultimate goal of the grant was really making a difference in the patient. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Lindsay, back to you then. So why don't you just get a little overview? So what exactly was your project, and then sort of how's it progressed, and how have you guys done with it so far?
Yeah. So MR Safety was our project. At the time, I was an imaging manager in Perry, and we have a mobile truck, and there was minimal MR Safety at best. The more I researched and Googled MR, because I'm not an MR tech, I wanted to know more about it and just how dangerous it can be. There's just not a level of education out there for the public, for staff. So MR Safety was my basis, and we just branched out from there. They did not have a door frame that, monitors for any metal. So we ended up getting them a wand. And they actually used the wand at both places, Warner Robins and Perry. For Warner Robins, it's like a double layer of safety. We were also able to get our second MRSO trained and certified. So now we have an MRSO for each magnet at our site. That was important for me because it's two different brands. So I wanted to make sure that MRSO was specific to that brand. We also kind of finessed the implant screening process. So our admin coordinator, Kristen, she developed a proper workflow to where there wasn't a delay in patient care. Patients could still get their scans, timely. And our next chapter of the grant is focusing on marketing and education, getting education out to the providers from an MR safety standpoint, education to the public on an MR safety standpoint. It's sort of just an evolution. I just don't feel like it's ever going to end. It's caught up some speed, and it's even a good topic.
It's a fantastic topic. We could go on a 2-hour journey into the world of MRI safety. And, I'm sure you've seen some of it. You hear the really unfortunate situations that happen out there every day. It ties into some of the discussions going on around remote scanning now, and some of the criteria people have, and the kind of who's in the room and who's overseeing the scans, and some of the benefits that does bring. But it sounds like with this, so you guys apply for, you win a grant, so it gives you a little prestige, right? It makes you feel good, and you can share that with your organization. And it sort of sounds like, if I'm reading it right, you use that as a platform to gather your team together, and you use some of the funds to purchase the software, the tools that you can use to, the wands and checking people in through the rooms and just detecting metal and other things, as well as it sounds like the catalyst that got you together to say, look, we're going to dive in here and standardize our processes. The MRSO, so our safety officer for MRI, is a fantastic idea. There's tons of members out there in AHRA that do that as well. If you were looking to connect with folks or even share your story further, the forum's a great place to do that, right? I guarantee you'll get a lot of people responding in, just sharing ideas or asking you questions. So it sounds like with the funds and sort of the awareness of this, you were able to raise visibility within your organization, purchase some things you might not otherwise gotten your hands on. And I love your point about now going out to the community. Just on hey, these are things you got to think about when you're referring a patient in. If you ask these questions, understand it beforehand, it'll make scheduling easier, more smooth. Your patients will know what to expect. That's kind of where you were driving on that, right?
Absolutely, because I feel like, you're your best advocate, right? So I just feel like the more knowledge people have, it'll arm them to be more involved with their care. They won't just completely trust whoever's taking care of them. They will have the knowledge to back them up as well,
Yeah.
I just feel like that would empower them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lindsay, I actually have a question about that. Not necessarily the impact that was made on the patient-facing stuff that you guys implemented, but really on the staff engagement, really identifying an MRSO and providing the tools for your team to be successful in that regard. How did that impact the team?
I feel like it boosted morale, The one that we targeted to obtain the second MRSO certification, he's our senior tech down in Perry, so it gave him a little bit of bragging rights, And then it's sort of the other technologists are kind of looking up to them like, well, dang, if they can do that, I can do that. So it's like a domino effect. It just, hopefully what we've implemented will catch on and people will want to further their education, learn something a little more, and not just stick at complacency.
It's amazing.
Yeah, love it. All right, so Sara, we're gonna pull you up next. How about same kind of questions I was throwing to Lindsay? You want us to walk us through a little bit about how you found out about the program, what got you excited, and then just walk us through what exactly you guys are using the funds for in sort of your project?
Sure. So this kind of started back in 2023 for me. I watched a webinar on the AHRA about CMS throwing a new mandate out there. And after watching it, I had to start researching different opportunities for software. And there wasn't anything at the time. So then we're going to fast forward to 2024. I went to the AHRA meeting in, I think it was Florida at that time. So in 24, I met with a vendor there that had the solution that I was looking for. And then after meeting with him, it was ProAqCT software. After meeting with him, Jan, I got an estimate from him. So then now the next thing was, where am I going to get the funds? And since I too go on the AHRA and check the things out, see what's new, what's going on, I saw this grant was available. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity, right? And I viewed it as the grant as an opportunity not only to pursue funding, but also going back to the CRA to showcase the accomplishment of earning my CRA, to apply the knowledge that I gained while studying for the CRA and reinforcing both my understanding and professional experiences. So I just thought this was the perfect opportunity, especially when I budgeted our whole project at $32,500. $10,000, that's a third of the project. And if I could show that to the C-suite, hey, look what I was able to get for us, I don't think they're going to say no. And as it was, we were awarded the $10,000. Thank you, Canon. And it was able to let me go forward with our project.
That's great. So, Sara, what is just so we can step back to? So, what exactly was the project, and what was the area of challenge you guys were facing?
So, ProAqCT software is a software that helps reduce radiation exposure and improve image quality in CT imaging. So it's radiation safety, and it's not just reporting doses, which, if you have Epic, that's something you can do. This goes a little further. So what it does is the software actively monitors patient-specific CT doses and provides real-time alerts for dose thresholds. So in the time that a CT technologist is scanning a patient, when they do their scout, they might get a warning across the screen saying you need to reduce your mass or you need to increase your kV. And what's great about that is it's making them accountable for their patient's radiation exposure. And what I really loved about this software is I would get alerts in my email if the threshold if they would be on the threshold. And we still do, this is a living, breathing project. We quarterly meet with ProAqCT and one of their physicists to go over the exams that go beyond the threshold so we can change the techniques and change settings within the CT system. And see, since we don't have a physicist on board and we don't have a radiologist on board, we needed resources to help us do this. We needed somebody that understood radiation exposure beyond what we understand it so that we could reduce it for our patients and have great image quality. So example, we were able to reduce radiation exposure by 11% for our CT heads, and the image quality wasn't compromised whatsoever. And I thought that was great because where we are, we're more of an elderly community, so we get a lot of stroke and falls. So we're doing head CTs constantly on these people. And yes, they're elderly, but we still need to reduce that radiation exposure.
Love it. I mean, oh, sorry, Andrew, you're going to lean in. I saw you leaning in.
AKA Andrew. This is going to be right too.
Yeah.
I just want to emphasize, this is amazing. And thank you so much, Lindsay and Sara, to share your stories. But for me, my takeaway is we're hearing these aren't just like hypothetical projects. They're real, they're measurable, they have improvements. And ultimately, they're being driven by you, the membership, people that understand the challenges of imaging workflows because you're in the department with patients every day. And ultimately, because AHRA, through this collaboration, is having the recipients share their outcomes, we're all benefiting as an entire community. So just amazing. And I'm a little bit biased too. We're not involved in the selection of the grant recipients. That's completely through Andrew and his team. But as a medical physicist, I love the topics that both of you brought to the table here today. Certainly very important topics. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to say it's really interesting. These hit right home in terms of MRI safety and radiation dose. I mean, does it get any more important than that? Right? It's right there. Things you read about every single day that people struggle with at times. So I love these stories of kind of something that could just, it's not even that difficult to put these places and put them into place. Once you make it a priority and you talk about the resources, get your team focused, you can make a really big impact. So it's great. So any other thoughts you guys have there to share just in terms of the things you learned or lessons learned with the program, or was it easy once you guys got through there, receiving the dollars, moving forward, and you want to share with potential folks out there that are thinking of applying for these grants? Did it go pretty smoothly? Anything you can think of or tips for folks as they get ready to apply?
I don't think there was any challenges per se. I do know that once you take this project on and you call it yours, that you're going to be busy. So if you want to put in the effort and, if you really want to make something happen, just prepare to work and make it happen.
Well said. Sara, anything from your end, or all smooth sailing thus far? And I love the fact that you mentioned that you're still in full progress too. Both of you mentioned that too. Not a one and done, but anything from your side, Sara, that you just, as people are considering, or things you would have wanted to know about as you got ready to apply for the program, or is it pretty easy to manage going forward?
I think applying for the program and responding to whatever Kristen emailed out was fairly simple. But for me, a challenge that I had was IT, just because this all was integration between IT and Epic software and all these other parties. So for me, that was my biggest challenge. But as for the Canon grant itself, I didn't find that to be challenging. But like Lindsay said, yes, if you're going to apply for it, be prepared, because, this is something that you guys want to publish. You want to show off our work. So you want it to be good work so people want to repeat it, right? So I just think, like Lindsay said, it is something you need to be prepared to work a little further, do a little bit more, and showcase your talent.
Yeah, and Sara, your team, you guys both, I couldn't have teed you up any better to go where I was going next. Is that exactly right? So the folks that are out there thinking about applying, I'll just share that right now we just selected 5 winners for 26. Those are listed on our AHRA website. So if you go to ahra.org and you look under our grant program and Putting Patients First, you will see the 5 recipients who are now off and running on their program. The next application window will open up in the fall. But what I was going to say was, one of the things, and Andrew, maybe you can speak to this, is one of the lessons learned we saw is, there were some people that received grants that things come up, right? You just said IT is a resource, or maybe there was some facility resources, or they had a shortage with staff, or suddenly they just couldn't get the program going, right? Or they couldn't get out of the gates. And I think we put in some new processes and Andrew, you can speak to this, about how the MRC is going to help, as well as we're going to be a little more closely aligned with the folks receiving the grants to sort of help illuminate or articulate some of the progress that they're making throughout the year. So we can share even mid-progress reports, as well as just making sure that people are ready to go. Like before we give you dollars, are you sure you're ready to rock and roll? Because we have a lot of applicants, but I'm not taking your thunder, Andrew. I just know there's been a lot of work around that.
No, you're hitting it spot on, Jason. The big thing, with us at the MRC and what we've noticed over the years is that, the grants are provided, the applications are submitted, the selection process occurs, and the organizations, ultimately get notified that they received the grant. What happens after that, is kind of a bit of a toss up, or it's just a little bit all over the place. So really what we came up with through the MRC with the support of the board of directors at the AHRA and obviously Jason with your leadership was really to provide liaisons from the MRC that, are going to help the applicant or the people that are selected, the organizations that are selected. We're going to be helping them along the way. So, any kind of project management related questions or, roadblocks that these organizations may have, we're going to be able to provide those resources at the AHRA to help kind of guide them along throughout the process. That's not to say that we're going to be doing the work. It's obviously the responsibility and the accountability factor for the individuals that are selected. But whatever kind of resources that we can provide or support, whether it be directly with the MRC committee member that's going to be the liaison for each project, or if we need to escalate something up to the board or to Jason for, any further review or any kind of help that's needed outside of that, we'll be providing that moving forward. So the other thing that I'll add too is, I've said a term, project management, right? I think that we as imaging leaders, we're spread very thin, and things get overwhelming from time to time. So to be able to have that kind of resource available to, even if it's just to talk through where you're at within your project at that given moment, I think it's extremely valuable because it kind of helps put the pieces together and really keep you on track. So that's what we decided that we were going to do there.
So Lindsay, Sarah, does that sound like that's helpful? That'd be helpful?
I think so. I think that'd be great.
Eileen, not to mention we can shamelessly steal ideas as they're going and start to share them with other members. So that's the other piece of the puzzle. So then I know the last piece we were trying to do is we're making a really specific effort to make sure that the recipients get to connect with Andrew Gilchrist and the Canon team. Because obviously, Andrew, we want to make sure that Canon gets to know these folks and they can ask the questions as well. And you can learn from them. So next time you're out there at a customer, maybe hear something similar and someone has an issue and you're like, you know what? I know someone who had the exact same issue and I can put you in touch. And here's a great way to share the story. Because I was trying to do quick math also, Andrew, that so it's been about 15 years. I think you're right. It's probably been a little longer that I know with Canon. That's upwards of $750,000 to $1 million worth of support that has come back through the years, right? Obviously to help the AHRA programs, but the lion's share has gone to these kinds of programs. And I mean, for that, I say thank you on behalf of everybody here, but it's always more, you can see that the money's making a difference. It's about more than the dollars, obviously, the relationships. But yeah, any thoughts there about you connecting with these folks, me able to follow up? I think that's the biggest thing that I want to make sure you guys are feeling really good about as we go forward.
And I can't emphasize that enough. This is such a delight to have this podcast. I think it's a great idea, Jason. So thanks to you and the team. But I view this as just the start of a relationship, right? It's intended to be kind of like seed funding to get projects off the ground, to take flight. Hopefully there's a lot of, perceived value just in the, honorableness of receiving such a prestigious award. But that's key for me is maintaining the relationship, wherever appropriate so that we can, again, continue to support each other, right, in the progress of advancing patient care.
Yeah, 100%. It's perfect. All right. So as we're sort of wrapping up, like you mentioned, there's a lot of information on the AHRA website. So folks can go to that and then learn about the program, and they keep their eyes and ears open for the new application process that will be starting in the fall. But you can also learn about the 5 that are approved for this year, and we'll be hearing from those folks throughout the year. If you have questions for Lindsay or Sarah, best way to reach you guys, either through, if you're an AHRA member, you can look them up and connect you through the forum. Or is there another way to get you guys that you want to share? Lindsay, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I'm going to say probably my LinkedIn would be the best.
Okay, so we'll post that with the episode. And Sarah, how about you?
Same as Lindsay, my LinkedIn.
Perfect. And I can assume the same for the two Andrews. You can get them through that.
I don't want to
deviate
deviate, Jason. Yeah, it's same for me. And the good news is I have a very unique name. So there's only one Andrew Cools-Gilchrist. You're lucky to find underneath it.
I love that. All right. Well, look, I really appreciate you guys taking some time to share a little bit about the program, a little bit of how you went through it. I love hearing sort of real world examples of how these dollars are being used and put into play. I also just like to take away that it was more than the money. It was about engaging with your staff, creating new opportunities for them, really making an impact on patient safety and patient care. Andrew Ruiz, I love hearing about kind of how the member recognition committee is going through process. I really appreciate you mentioned all their names. So shout out to them again for the hard work. And obviously, Andrew Cools-Gilchrist and Canon, we really appreciate your support and your partnership and so excited to keep it going. Any last words from folks as we wrap up?
I would like to say you should really stress to everyone to say yes when opportunities come up, because you just don't know. You know, when you see something pop up, say yes if somebody says you should join the AHRA. Say yes when somebody says, you know, you should become a CRA. And say yes when you see a grant opportunity. You don't know how far you can go. So that's just an end note.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll jump for that. You just never know. What's the worst that you could say is, no, we're going to go another direction. But there's also a small chance that, yeah, you just got your organization $10,000 just for applying. Being a small organization, that doesn't mean that you won't have a problem or an issue that isn't big enough. So, yeah, just apply.
And
I love it, you guys.
that's
thought on it. And I think, sorry, Andrew Ruiz.
No, I was just going to echo that, but kind of in a little bit different, shed a little bit different light to it, because obviously, we're in the Association of Medical Imaging Management, a couple things in that regard. I think number one, what I think the AHRA does really well is promoting the concept of networking and really being able to develop relationships outside of the immediate organization that you work for so that you can identify opportunities like this grant. You can connect with people like AKG and ultimately learn from people like Lindsay and Sara, right? That's the first thing, first and foremost. And then regarding what Lindsay and Sara were saying right now, it's also extremely, extremely important that we as leaders within our profession, we have an open mind and open ears to be able to listen to our teams when they bring forward concepts or different ideas to enhance patient care. Because it's not just us as leaders that ultimately have all of the ideas and all of the potential projects that we can play into a grant like this, but really taking what we're learning from our staff and really helping to get them engaged in what it is that we're trying to do ultimately as a team. You never know what you're going to hear from them. It might be something that would be very, very well suited for a grant like this that you can promote and have them go out and get the job done.
Well said. All right, gang. Well, I really appreciate it. And listeners, if you have questions, please reach out to any one of these folks and see you next time. Thanks for listening to Medical Imaging Matters, a podcast from AHRA, the Association for Medical Imaging Management. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. AHRA is proud to be the trusted association for medical imaging management professionals, offering career development programs, a comprehensive selection of educational conferences and seminars, networking opportunities, award-winning publications, the certified radiology CRA credential, and so much more. To discover all AHRA has to offer, visit our website at ahra.org. Until next time.